Hello and welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata von Scharner. I'm the president and founder of the Charles River Conservancy. And all these shows are about the Charles River, about the urban parklands. And today we have a very special guest. We have our Senator Sal DiDomenico. Welcome.
Thank you, Renata. Thanks for having me.
And I think if anybody knows about a gerrymander district, I think it's you. And you know that the word gerrymandering actually was born on the Charles River. There's Jerry's Landing because I guess it started there with,
That's right.
On the Charles. So we will look at the district of the senator. He has several interesting parts of the Charles River that are of interest. And we are now looking at the Charles River parklands, and Senator Sal DiDomenico has both the lower basin where the new parklands are, North Point Park, as well as Alston Brighton. So tell us a little bit about how you got to be the senator. Here is the information, and we'll have that information again later on. How did you become a senator along the Charles River?
Well, I grew up in East Cambridge. When I was a young boy, the Charles River always fascinated me because I was always in close proximity to the river. So growing up, we always went down to the Charles. My grandparents brought us down there weekly to take a walk along the Charles. And when I got older, I ended up working at the Royal Sonesta Hotel, which is right on the water. So the Charles River has had an interesting part of my life, and you know, we have a great history, and it's always been there. As an elected official, I grew up in Everett, but I ran for politics the first time in the city of Everett. When I moved there in 2002, we ran for city council, and we wanted a seat on the city council. I worked for former Senator Anthony Galluccio in the State House.
That Cambridge knows well.
That Cambridge knows very well. He was the former mayor and city councilor in the city, and he served in the state senate, representing the city of Cambridge as well. And then when that seat became open in 2010, I ran for state senate. And it was a big race. We had many opponents, and being from the city of Cambridge, I want to remind people that I was a Canterbridgian at heart, and that people in the community knew who I was, and we were successful. So I've been sitting in the state senate since 2010, and I'm the vice chair of Ways and Means now on the Senate President's leadership team. So
that's a senior position, really, a very important position to be in. So
it's a good place to be. We do the budget, we write the budget, we do the sub budgets, we do the conference committee, we do a lot of things that pretty much everything that has a monetary value to it has to come through Ways and Means.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we are going to look at your district. Your district here is a little bit on the Charles. It is in yellow, so it touches the Charles at North Point Park. Then it goes up into mid-Cambridge, North Cambridge, and comes across the Charles in Alston.
That's right.
And
having Cambridge, Alston, Brighton, and Everett, Chelsea, Charlestown, and the west end of Boston, it's a very diverse district with many different needs. But when it comes to environmental issues, the support is widespread across the entire district.
And you also have Chelsea Creek. So
That's
some
right.
of the lessons that have been learned in terms of water issues, cleanup, can now be applied also
And the
to
Mystic
the
River.
Mystic.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so that's wonderful. So this is again the various your district going showing all the area along the river, Alston Brighton, as well as the harbor. So we are now looking at North Point Park, and your predecessors were part of the planning of the skate park.
Right.
So you became senator in 2002, you said?
In 2010.
10. So the skate park had already been in the planning
Right.
for 10 years.
That's right.
So
many people had played a big role in that, and and of course you. When I say you, Renata is, as we all know, is the driving force in making that a reality. So I want to thank you for all you've done and the Conservancy, because without your advocacy and your push, things like this wouldn't be possible, and a generation of children now are going to be able to enjoy that area, and as time goes on, more children. So I want to thank you for your work.
Well, I did it because I had a small boy at the time. He was a skateboarder. He is now 6'7" and still skateboarding. And there are now skateboarders out there who were not even born when we started to plan that.
That's true. And there are so many things, and so many, at the opening of the groundbreaking of the skate park, we saw some professional skateboarders who have made a career out of doing all this. So it's an important thing. As we mentioned earlier too, off camera, that would have been a parking lot if you weren't so adamant about making sure that there was something there for the community. So
well, it's wonderful. And also we have some pictures here of the North Point Park, which because of mitigation funds for the Big Dig has been now transformed in an amazing park. And I think you were at the opening of that bridge, which was a gift from the federal government.
Yeah, that footbridge is, it's a great amenity for families from both Cambridge and Charlestown. And as at the opening, we had families from both ends of those communities coming together, meeting in the middle of the bridge during the opening. So have the connectivity between Boston and Cambridge through that footbridge it's special, and I go in there often, and it's utilized all the time.
Yeah.
And you can see someone riding their bike on there as well. So.
And the playgrounds, there are 2 playgrounds there, and of course this EF and Lingo and the skate park. Suddenly this will be an area that is very much alive.
Right, growing up in East Cambridge, not too far from that location, when we were children, we were told not to go to that part of the city because there was nothing good happening there.
It was a trash transfer station.
It was not a good place to be. You had the Museum of Science across the street, and then you had something else that you didn't want to walk through on the other side.
Yeah.
And now it's a great place for everyone to enjoy.
And this space is the space underneath the Zakem Bridge, which then connects to the Bunker Hill College.
Right.
Is community college, is a wonderful space with the beautiful lights. And but of course this site was owned originally by Mass Turnpike Authority, Mass Highway, and then it was consolidated under Mass DOT.
Right.
And you helped in all these negotiations.
It was, again, that part of the city, we could see early on that there was a lot of good things happening there, and that really is the gateway in so many respects to the community. And the fact that it was just sitting there and it was wasting away, we knew that there was a better use for that. And now, again, with your advocacy and so many others who worked hard to make that happen, we see the fruits of that labor. And today, there's a lot of things happening there, a lot of things completed, and a lot of things that are going to be coming to fruition in the near future.
Yeah.
So it's great. And I have 2 young boys who are 9 and 10 years old, and I understand how important open space and green space is for families and activities that families can enjoy together. And that's a place where it's a shining example of what can be done if people work hard together and have a vision for the future.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's also, we had the design, and we had, worked with DCR, who will then be the operator of the skate park,
Right.
and had the support of Mass DOT. And we had really the full support of all the elected officials. And I think
Right.
that really helped us in getting funding from the Lynch Foundation.
Right.
So it's now called the Lynch Family Skatepark. I think you were involved in that legislation as well.
We got that change of Tim Toomey and I, Reverend
Yeah.
Tim Toomey, yeah.
And then, but we needed additional funds from Vans.
Right.
And as we can see there, the Vans checkerboard there, a bit of branding. But without those 1.5 million for construction, we couldn't have done it, because it's a toxic site, it's a brown field.
Right.
And
Another example of turning something that wasn't so good into something that's great. So
yeah.
And elected officials, Marjorie Decker, Jay Livingstone, Representative Toomey, the Cambridge City Council, the city manager in Cambridge, all coming together, and we don't agree on everything all the time, but in this case we agreed on this issue and how important it was for our families and our neighborhoods. So
Yeah.
it was a group effort by a lot of people coming together.
Yeah. And here that
There's
you
an example of it right
that
there.
you were there,
Right.
a lot of happy faces at the groundbreaking. It was a northeastern. The governor couldn't be there because a tree had fallen down in front of his car. He couldn't be there.
It was a cold day, right? But that didn't stop the crowd from coming. I remember that the tent was overflowing from
Oh
the
yeah,
people.
yeah, it was a pretty exciting
Yeah.
moment. And here you are some key players.
Representative Toomey.
But very recently, you also helped in getting something onto the budget, the state budget, for the brownfield remediation, and that was very crucial because we were short, and now 138,000.
Right. Yeah, that was another obviously group effort, but it was also it's great that we can make a difference with the state budget. It's upwards of $39 billion, and when you break it down and you can see how every dollar is impacting a different community, $138,000, it goes a long way. So we appreciate, and obviously the fact that you're there and you're pushing to make it happen, and you have a track record of accomplishments and saying what you're going to do and doing what you say. The state looks at that. So there has to be some sort of reputation behind that money. You can't just say we want that kind of money to fund this project. So the work that you've put in all these years with so many different issues allowed us to go to bat for that money, and we were able to secure it.
Well, I appreciate, and the skaters will appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it's under construction, as you say.
There it is, yeah.
And that's now several weeks back. These bowls are now poured. A lot of steel going in there to make that a really solid skate park, and the walls, and here the concrete is being made smooth. Yeah. And now, before we go to swimming, so this is all happening in North Point Park, and the Conservancy will also be looking at swimming in North Point Park.
Right.
The swims we had, this picture with Secretary Beaton and with two staff members of the Charles River Watershed Association, because they're very active, obviously, in water quality. And tell us about the bond money for swimming, for the cleanup.
Yeah, so we were able to secure $6 million in the environmental bond bill. So we're waiting for that money to be appropriated, but I believe it was Representative Livingstone as well.
Yeah.
Did it in the House, and we were able to do it on the Senate side. So it was it's an initiative that we will keep track of, because obviously $6 million will go a long way to help cleaning up the Charles, and in particular the area that I grew up in and was always around down to the basin. So it's an important issue for me, and the fact that we were able to secure that kind of money in a bond bill was important, but it also helps a lot of people who want to use the river for swimming.
Yeah, we had two wonderful community swims this year.
Yeah.
We had first there was the swim race that the Charles River Swimming Club put on, and then we had two community swims, and Secretary Beaton jumped in, and he was holding a press conference, treading water, and 7 cameras lined up on the dock. So that was a joyous event. So I hope you'll join us next year.
Yeah, no, I will. And Secretary Beaton is very good. He's a good guy, and I knew him as a state representative for many years before he became the secretary. And I know he cares deeply about these issues. So he's a good person to have in that spot right now for us. So
you mentioned $6 million in the environmental bond bill. Actually, $500 million has been spent on cleaning up the Charles. So it's important to bring swimming back now.
That's impressive. Yes, and that's an impressive number on any issue and any project, and having it go to the Charles River is important.
Yeah. So here are some more pictures of the swim. It was a very joyous event. Here, everybody was people were having fun. So let's go upriver here, because you were involved in a major effort upriver here to make it safer to bike along the Charles River. And so we discussed with you of how can we make it easier for people to walk, run, bike along the river as part of the bridge renovations. And when Mass DOT announced that they would be restoring River Street Bridge, Western Avenue Bridge, and the Anderson Bridge, you were among the first ones to help us push for that. It was a 5-year, it took us 5 years.
Yes. So, and we had many meetings with secretaries on both sides and different agencies, and it was important to show them why this was a priority for so many people. Sometimes when you're doing big projects and you're trying to get them done in an efficient way, and and getting them done safely and quickly, because the bridges need to be repaired quickly. You kind of lose sight sometimes of the pedestrian access and why it's so important for not just the drivers but the people in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with your leadership, and we were able to secure meetings with top officials in the administration to explain to them why this is so important.
Yeah, well, actually, you hosted quite a few of those meetings in your office. We met in your office with Secretary Mullen.
Right.
Then we met with Secretary Davy.
Right.
And these were crucial meetings. And then you were joined by state reps, but you hosted them. And I think the fact that you were there and were a strong advocate made a huge difference.
Well, it's again, I grew up in that neighborhood, so this wasn't just something that it was a topic for a state senator. This was something that that it was my neighborhood. So, and I know how important it is for folks to, biking and walking along the river. When you're walking above on a sidewalk, an elevated sidewalk, and the water is 20, 30 feet below you, you're not walking in the river. So
that, and also you have to fight the traffic.
Yes,
I mean,
and it's not a public safety issue as well. You're not really walking on the waterfront. So it was important, and I'm glad that we were able to make some headway with this. And the secretaries were very receptive, and we want to thank the Patrick administration at the time, who did a lot of work with us on that. So
yeah, and the new administration said they're allowing us to continue the planning and the permitting, but it might need your help again, because we will need to fund it, and we need to make sure that it's not just seen as a recreational thrill.
Right.
I mean, this is a commuter route for bicyclists. Absolutely. And it's a safety issue.
Right. Yeah, when you're crossing over the streets or the bridges across, it's not. We all see the traffic there. We all see what's happening. In those intersections and major intersections. They're not just side streets. So having the underpasses is definitely a public safety issue.
Yeah, and I've just when you go upriver on the Boston side of the river and you come to the Anderson Bridge,
mm-hmm.
and when you turn right there into Harvard Square, there is no moment that a pedestrian has the sole green light.
Right.
The pedestrian will always have to fight with right turning cars.
That's right.
So for me, that's not safe.
No, not at all.
And
not at
so.
All. And people in the places where it matters listening to us. So that's good. We have supportive people on our side on this issue now.
Yeah, good.
But it's taken a while, and
it's not done yet.
No, it's not done yet. We have to keep pushing and making sure that people don't forget how important it is.
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of shows the bridges in question: River Street, Western Avenue, the Anderson Bridge. So right now we're doing the 25% design for the Anderson Bridge, mm-hmm. and the other ones, River Street and Western Avenue, will be part of the I-90 reconfiguration. It's something we are very involved in, and you're probably watching from a bit of a distance, but it's a very big discussion.
Yeah, no, that's in my district. So the straightening of the pike is right in my Alston-Brighton area. So wow. So we're very involved in that piece of it, and very involved in all the matters that go with that. With the new Esplanade, we're hoping
Alston Esplanade, absolutely.
We're hoping that becomes a reality, and we're pushing hard to work on that.
Yeah, well, this is a great opportunity to have the West Station there.
Right.
And at the last task force meeting, the advocates, A Better City and Livable Streets, presented alternatives to Mass DOT's presentation. Mm-hmm. Very interesting ideas of maybe not making a viaduct necessary, but to have it all at grade
level. Right.
So you wouldn't have these looming structures, and these viaducts are very expensive.
They definitely are. And we and obviously money is scarce, and anytime we can save money and have different options, we should look at that. Yeah.
So I'm glad that this is in your district.
It is, the Alston-Brighton advocates are very vocal, and they should be, because this is going to be transformative for the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think there was a breakthrough at the last meeting. Secretary Stephanie Pollock was there, and she said, well, often Mass DOT considered the advocates as just being a nuisance, but actually these advocates are all very dedicated, trying to find a solution and come up with ideas.
They come up with great ideas, and they're in the neighborhood too, so obviously they should be listened to. They're going to be living with these structures after everyone goes home. After it's all done, they have to live with it. So the quality of life issues for them, and also, you know, the plans that I've seen some of these advocates propose are not just good for just the neighborhood folks, but people in the whole region. So people that want to enjoy the waterfront with the Esplanade in Alston. You know, a couple of names that come up, Harry Madison's one of them that comes up quite often because he's very vocal and he has a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, and it will also improve the development potential. If you don't have a high west station that is 40 feet up, that means all the roads would have to climb that, and it's much harder to develop parcels when you have these kind of differentiations in height.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of good things happening there, and looking forward to the next step.
So we have only a few moments left, so we will go maybe just look at some of these illustrations of the bridges of what they proposed, River Street, and this is actually the Anderson Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in the planning stage, and now. And
then that looks, you know, just looking at that rendering and seeing, you know, the access that folks would have right along the water. That's what we should be striving to do. So we're on our way.
So I want to thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for all your support. You have made a huge difference along the Charles River with hosting meeting, listening to us, and I hope you will also get involved in the Locks area where Cambridge and Boston come together.
Yes, we definitely will be, yes.
Where we're working with the Esplanade Association, with the Watershed Association, with DCAM and Representative Livingstone. So maybe we'll do another show about that.
Yes,
sometime.
love to, anytime. And thank you for your advocacy and the Conservancy's advocacy, because of all the work that you're doing, we're making some positive changes in our neighborhood.
So I will now put the information about how people can contact you if they want to find you in the State House.
Yes.
And
anytime if they want to give us a call, come in, you know, email us, whatever way they want to communicate with us, we'll make sure we get back to them.
Wonderful. Well, you always be very responsive to our calls and making things happen along the Charles River. So I want to let our viewers know that this show will be on YouTube, on our website. And so if you missed that, you can catch it up. And if you have questions about the work of the Conservancy, this is our website. We have 2,000 volunteers that work along the river every year. We have obviously swimming events. We work on advocacy, and the skate park opening should happen sometimes this fall, and we are very thrilled about that. So I'll leave this up here, and thank you very much for coming.
Renata. Thank you.
And we'll keep talking about the Charles River and how we can make it even better. It has so much potential, and you playing a key role. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Renata.